this little mouse, Spark. The lowest of the low, he steps up and saves the world. So that's where it began. I began developing that. And then as I developed that, the theme of be that spark, that we can all be that spark, no matter how big or how small, we can do some amazing things.
Welcome to the My Future Business Show, where we get you in front of your best audience and keep you there. Not only are we interviewing the biggest names in business to help you become even more successful, we're inviting you to book your spot on the show to help you grow your business. So at the end of the call, make sure you fill in the interview application form at myfuturebusiness.com/interviews.
Hello and welcome back to the My Future Business Show. It's Rick Nuske. I'm so glad to have you with us today. If this is your first time on the show, you're in for a treat because I'm on the line with the wonderful Chris Parsons. Welcome to the show, Chris.
It's great to be here, Rick.
Now, you and I were briefly chatting about your life and technology and how it's changed our lives and all these bits and pieces, and I'd love to explore that with you a little bit more about your personal life. But you're obviously the founder of Zuroam Media, and we're going to be talking about your work with children's literature and in particular A Little Spark. But before we do any of that, Chris, I'd love to learn a little bit more about your life, maybe by starting with where you're located.
Well, I'm located in Dallas, Texas, and we've moved. I've lived in a couple of cities in the U.S., Atlanta and D.C., originally from Canada. But through my technology career, I've lived in London, I've lived in Korea, but I'm a Texan now.
Yeah, fantastic. Now, you've made some major shifts away from the corporate world to do your own thing, essentially, and it's going really gangbusters for you. So it's a real credit to you, and I'd love to take a deep dive into that. Now,
Sure, yeah.
You started off in a fishing village. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, I don't know if you know, Newfoundland is a province of Canada, very remote place, very Irish. So I grew up in a little place called Flat Rock, Newfoundland, population 400. And I go back there whenever I can. Family's still there.
Yep.
Very, very rich in music and storytelling, and
Culture.
and that's where I sort of connected into this story telling thing, and I left there after I graduated college, and then my life moved into the technology world.
Yes, well, I find it amazing, this whole idea of technology, that you can be where you are and where I am, and we're just connecting like we're around the corner. It's just amazing, isn't it?
Yeah, it's fantastic.
Now, do you get people coming to you and saying Newfoundland, and does it annoy you?
That annoys me. Yeah. So I'm going to let you. So how would you pronounce it?
I would have said Newfoundland, but
Yeah.
now I've learnt.
Yeah. So Newfoundland.
Newfoundland. Well, there you go. For everybody's on the show today, you've learnt something.
Yeah.
Now,
There you go.
now
And people from Rick, people from Newfoundland are called Newfies.
Newfies. Fantastic.
Yeah.
I love it. Now, in terms of Newfoundland dogs, I know that
Yep.
you have a couple. Tell us about
I
them.
have two. Yeah, I have two. And then right now we're babysitting my son's dog. And I had three cats. I lost two in the last year. They were older cats.
Mm-hmm.
And so animals are a big part of my life, and in the book as well. As you'll see in the book,
Yeah.
the animals are sort of featured in there.
Yeah, I love the fact that you love large breed dogs. We're a large breed dog family ourselves, and they're just so nice to cuddle. They really
Yeah.
just give you a place, a safe place to fall almost when you need them.
You can hear one of them in the background there. I apologize for
Oh,
that.
not at all, not at all.
Sound effect.
Sound effects. Now, you talked about music and a little bit about culture. Tell us a little bit about the types of music that you enjoy.
I like any type of music. I like not so much some of the modern like EDM music,
Mm-hmm.
but certainly rock and roll, jazz. I'm just fascinated by people who create music. And in fact, I was on Tuesday night here in Dallas. I went to a Rolling Stones concert.
Oh, yes, I heard about that. I heard that was
Yeah.
going to happen. How was it?
It was unbelievable. It's amazing. These guys are I think Mick Jagger's 78 years old.
Yeah,
And he's dancing, and it's just amazing. It's
he's
it's
rocking.
inspirational, we'll see. And it's great. So I like that. I like jazz, all kinds of music. And through this, I'm sure we'll talk about music, but through this whole adventure in the last 5 years with Zuroam Media and A Little Spark, I really got connected into the music world.
Yeah,
Big time.
there's so many different ways that we could take this call. I'd love to, if we could,
Mhm.
just talk about sources of inspiration as they apply to your personal life at the moment. Now, the next one I was going to ask you about was movies. Do you have time for movies, and are they a source for you?
Yeah, yeah, no, they are. I love movies. I love, you know what I really, when I can and I get the right kind, I love historical documentaries.
Yes.
And there's so much great content out there. So whenever I see like the History Channel, and because I think people don't spend enough time understanding history, and so many distractions for kids and all that, but
Hmm.
it's fascinating. And so I like that genre. I like detective, really good detective stories and things with intrigue. But yeah, I'm not so much into reality TV. That's one
No, pass.
category. Yeah,
Now,
it's not good.
Chris, and when you are active, but in your private time, do you like sports? Do you do anything like that,
Oh
or
yeah.
what?
Oh
What
yeah.
do you
Well, I'm
do?
a big football fan. So I grew up in Canada, but we moved here. So college football is huge
Yes,
in
yes,
the US, as you know, it's massive.
yes.
And so when my son was looking at schools, we looked at big schools, and he picked Alabama, the University of Alabama. And if you know anything about college football, University of Alabama, if you want to be a football
That's
fan,
where you
that's where
go.
you want to go. And so I've adopted. So football, mostly college football, NFL, but my passion growing up, and you'll relate to this, was rugby.
Oh, rugby.
And and rugby is huge in Newfoundland. I mean, Newfoundland is like the center of rugby in Canada, and
Yeah,
a
yeah.
lot of Irish influence. So rugby was my sport, rugby and hockey.
Yeah,
And
wow. I love these conversations because it gives a bit of a human element to the people behind the
yeah,
businesses, and I think that's really important for the sake of context. Now, when you were
yeah.
growing up, Chris, I'd love to, if we could, is to tap into something of your own childhood that you can recall that was a fond memory for you. Do you have anything that you remember?
Yeah, there's so many things around sports and hockey. That was a fun time. And
Yep.
my parents, you get up at 6, they'd get up at 6 in the morning. So and take you to the rink. I
You get
mean,
up at
so for
7.
them it wasn't fun, but through that I developed a lot of friendships, and so that was a happy time. And then the other thing, my family in that little village, and still are, we're the fishery. So like my family's in commercial fishery now, crab. So growing up back then, I was around the water, and as a little kid, when they go out fishing, I'd go with them, not early in the morning, but in the afternoon. So that
Yep.
whole experience, is long gone. The world has changed a lot, but that whole experience of being around the water and the fish, and it was a magical time.
Yep.
And
Yep.
I still go back. I go back to Newfoundland at least every second year, and it's almost like it hasn't changed. The people and again, my family now, instead of cod fishery, which
Yep.
has sort of disappeared, they're into offshore crab and all
Mm,
that. So that's when I think about my childhood. I think the fun, and just the intrigue of being a little guy attached to
yeah.
this big thing with
This
my
magic world.
father.
Now
Yeah.
you talk about your father, and I'd love to, and also might I add, Chris, that I could see you tapping into that memory vault, and I could see how much joy there was. So I really do appreciate you sharing. Now,
Yeah.
you talked about your father growing up. Have there been many inspirational, I guess, motivational people that gave you direction as you were growing up?
Well, he was one person who had a major, obviously my mom, but my father was, he was a huge man. Like he was like 6'6", true Irishman. And he just woke up every day and went out and did it, whether it was the fishing, whether he was in politics, his business. And so he was a major inspiration. And then as I moved through business, there was a guy I connected with early on, who's still a friend. In fact, I had breakfast with him last week, and he
Hmm.
became very, very successful. But even as I started this journey, I remember I had a conversation, this is like 4 or 5 years ago. I said, I'm thinking about moving into this. And he said, you have to do it. It's your passion, and it's really good. Your concept is really good. So he had a major impact. And then there's all these people along the way. There was a grade 4 teacher, um, Mrs. Wilkinson. And
Amazing how we
she
remember the
really,
names.
yeah, oh no, and I saw her recently. She's like
Oh, wow.
85 years old. And I saw her recently and she calls me Chrissy Parsons.
Hi,
And
Chrissy.
yeah, but I remember back, and she geography and history were the two subjects, and she just made it unbelievable. And you're in this little community, totally isolated, and there's this big world, and she brought that world to me, and that really inspired me. That when I grew up, unlike a lot of other people in my family, I left and went on this adventure, and so I credit her with just exposing me to the world
The world.
and and she's still around and she plays um, she plays different instruments. She plays the accordion and
Oh,
she
yeah.
still plays it.
Oh,
And so it was
wow.
always music and we had the concerts back then and we'd sing on the concerts and
She's a light in the world, isn't she?
totally
Yeah,
still is.
fantastic. No, I love this sort of call. This is what really makes a difference to the audience who listen to the My Future Business shows. We're talking about you, not only your business, which we'll be pivoting to in a moment, but in terms of being, an author and somebody who does something very unique with children's literature. Do you read? Do you take in audiobooks? Do you like doing that sort of thing
I yeah,
yourself?
I read yeah, I just made a 3,000 mile trip um, from Canada with my dog, so I couldn't fly, so I
Yes,
brought him back.
yes.
So yeah, I listen to everything.
Yep.
Tim Ferriss, if you're familiar with
Oh,
him, he
of
has a
course.
podcast and
Yes.
like you, he interviews all these people. And I find that amazing because you get to experience people through that. And so, yeah, no, I read and I've read a lot of children's books in the last 5 years and the classics and C.S. Lewis and all that stuff, just amazing content that I was aware of, obviously growing up, but I've sort of revisited that whole world, and it really is magical and it's inspirational and it inspired me, and and then you ask about movies and content. I tell you who probably my biggest inspiration, unfortunately he's no longer with us,
Mm.
was Jim Henson,
Oh,
who
of course, the
created the Muppets.
Muppets. Yes.
Yeah, yeah,
Great
Sesame
guy.
Street, right? Sesame Street, the Muppets, and all those characters, and just amazing what he did for kids and adults, creating these magical worlds and music, and he's sort of uh, my hero, and I still watch those shows, the Muppet
Yeah,
shows,
yeah,
and
yeah,
yeah,
absolutely. The Muppet
yeah,
movie.
yeah, oh yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely,
I love it.
amazing,
I absolutely Grouch was my favorite, I have to say, in these
yeah.
sorts of things.
Yeah, the Swedish Chef. And I can do
Burp,
most
burp,
of the
burp, burp.
voices. And so I
Absolutely, I
do a
love
lot
it.
of I've done a lot of those voices over the years. And I have them in my stories. Kids love the voices and
Yeah,
you
well,
know.
look, and we're doing exactly what your life's mission is all about, is making each other smile and enjoy our time on this planet. And I wonder, given now that you must be busy with Zuroam and because of its success, I wonder what I guess a daily routine would look like for you. Do you get up early, and what's a day
Yep.
look like?
I get up early. I always get up early.
Hmm.
And the first thing I do in the morning is I come to my desk and I plan my day. Actually, the night before I update my activities and to-do list.
Hmm.
Then I start in the morning and because people are on different time zones, I got, some people on the West Coast and different parts, but I organize myself in the morning with my list of things to do, the priorities.
Hmm.
And then during the day, we have different calls and, Zoom is big and we write different articles for parenting magazines. So there's some writing and things we do. And then I take a break. I take my dogs out, and obviously my wife. We do things throughout the day, and then I come back again, depending on the day. And then the last thing I do is I review everything that I accomplished in the day and some of the new things, and get ready for the next day. And but I'm very disciplined right now because there's a lot going on. But I want to balance. I love what I'm doing, so that's great.
That always
And
helps.
yeah, it always helps. And I liked my other life and what I did in tech now, great teams, great people, great companies. But now I'm really passionate. So I make the point to be, really well planned, but you can never be really well planned, as you know.
Hmm.
Things during the day happen and I respond. We got lots of things that are coming in and going out. But being planned and ready is sort of, and I've always been that way. I've been, I spend lots of time making sure I get the priority things because there's a lot of things that are you need to do, and you just need to prioritize between what I do at work and obviously family and
Yep. And all the other things that come up to pass every day. It's a
yeah.
bouncing ball. You have to follow it, don't you? Now, I know that you were an executive in the global technology space, and I wonder what inspires a person to go, you know what, I'm leaving this relatively safe, secure environment, and I'm going to go and start Zuroam Media. Was there an element of fear? What was the risk like, and how
Oh
did you
yeah.
manage all this?
Well, it was a big, huge decision. So I
Yeah.
had two worlds. I had the world of technology, and I've been very successful. And my skill was around innovation, business development, partnerships, and M&A. So and
Mm-hmm.
that was exciting. So that was a really exciting job. And I moved. I was recruited here in Dallas by AT&T, and T, and I ran their data business and all that. And I truly enjoyed it. But I always had this passion about children's stories and like creating these characters and music, and I never really pushed a button, and I always said someday I'm going to do this, and I
One
had all
day.
these ideas and all that. And it was really back in 2017, 2016, my kids, because I had this story being developed, this a little spark, and they were the ones who encouraged me and said, you need to do this. And then, like I mentioned, the guy I spoke of, a mentor or such, and some people around me who knew me in this world said, you should do it. And then I was really nervous about doing it, and then I made the decision. And I remember going in. So you have all these corporate folks and all that who know me as this guy, the
Yeah,
innovation guy.
yep.
And I go into my boss and say, I've got some news. Said, yeah. I said, I'm leaving. And they weren't totally surprised because I've done some startups, and I've moved and done different things. So the assumption was I was going to go with another technology company. And then I said,
Nope.
no, I've got this thing in children's content and music, and they were blown away. And but they knew me, and then they were exposed to a little bit more of what I was doing, and they were 100% supportive. So I got good vibes from that world, family, and people close to me. And I had tested this because over the years I created all these stories with kids, and so I felt like it was something of value. And that's how it happened. And then there's a whole story of how we ended up with Zuroam Media and what I learned along the way.
You know what? The thing I'm taking from this, Chris, is that you don't leave anything for regret or doubt or uncertainty, do you? Is that
No,
important to actually
no,
just make sure you do it?
yeah, yeah, I'm all in. And, and I found, and I know you're the same way in what you're doing now and what you did before. And then you found something that became your
Yes,
passion.
sir. Yep.
And the Volkswagen, I've seen that video.
Yeah,
Every
yeah.
day you're doing
You
the
like
same
it?
thing. And, and, one day
I
I
don't
got
want. I want
out
to
of the
get out of the
Volkswagen.
Volkswagen.
Yeah. And I went over on, I don't know what vehicle is the analogy to where I am. It's like a flying dragon.
Yes, yes, yes.
Come back to the book. And, it's been no regrets. I still stay connected. And I'm sure we'll talk about the book. I've been able to take some of the technology expertise I've had into this platform and Zuroam Media, to make it interactive and different. So I still, and I follow that world. I'm keenly interested in all the different technologies, and I watch what's happening, and I help. I've got people I mentor back in that world,
Yep.
but I've been able to use my knowledge there. So it wasn't totally, I'm never going to do that again. We're going to do this. I was able to bridge some of the technology into this, Zuroam Media and the Be That Spark platform, and the book, of course, A Little Spark. So
Well, let's talk about A Little Spark because from what I have gathered and what I have seen, very, very exciting. I know that it's won the Mums Award, which is a big
mm,
thing, and I
yeah,
and I wonder because this is not just a book, and I'm wondering if you can explain it because you could do it far better than I could.
yeah.
What the concept is based around.
So I'll go back a little bit. So anyway, I had you create all these stories, and my kids grew up, so they were my test market when they were many years ago.
Yes, yes.
But they grew up and so they didn't like, I couldn't use them anymore. But I kept working on this stuff. And what came with me was from that little fishing village in Flat Rock, the music and the big characters. And so then one day I was on a plane. I spent a lot of time on planes in my job. And this idea of this little mouse, Spark, and basically the plot, the lowest of the low, he steps up and saves the world. And so that's where it began. I began developing that. And then as I developed that, the theme of be that spark, that we can all be that spark, no matter how big or how small, we can do some amazing things. And, you don't need to save the world like Spark did. It could be a kind thing you do for your neighbor. And so that idea of be that spark sort of, and a little spark being the first book, and we've got other books and music that we're doing under that umbrella. And my vision for it was I wanted to create an experience where kids and parents could come together and enjoy a great book, listen to great music, the audio book, and really experience the characters and the music and the lessons, because lessons are really important in the book.
Course.
So I wanted to create this experience, sort of a new category. And, I said, so I get to that point and I said, okay, I've got to figure out how to publish this. And I think I bought a book, Publishing for Dummies, one of those yellow books. I got a lot of those.
Yes.
Children's books for dummies, because it's all relatively new.
Yep.
And so I got that book and said, oh, you got to get a literary agent, you got a publisher. And so I went through that process and I sent these query letters out, and it came back. They said, no, if you're in the children's genre, you're either a picture book, you're either a chapter book, or you're a graphic novel. What you're doing doesn't fit, and we're not sure we want to do this. And so I knew that it worked because I had tested this with audiences, and so that led me to the point of I want to create Zuroam Media. So what we created, in essence, is a book. It's a fully illustrated chapter book. It's 160 pages. It's well produced, great material, the look and feel. And then we embedded music. So we created our own original music. And so when you're reading the book, there's QR codes. At the particular point in the story, you scan the QR code and the music plays.
Wow.
And
That's
then there's
awesome.
an audiobook. There's a URL where you can download the audiobook. So some parents, they take the book out and all the illustrations, there's like 75 illustrations, and they play the audiobook while their kids are looking at the illustrations. And in the audiobook, we have this incredible voice actor, and you get to hear the character. So it sort of comes to life. It's sort of this multi-sensory experience. And it really is a moment. And this is the feedback I get, where parents or grandparents can sit with kids, and it's not something you do in one night. You could do it over a week or two, where you listen to, or you read a chapter of the book, you listen to the music, you do the audio book. There's a whole online, there's 50 different activities that you can do that are related, everything from drawing the characters to crossword puzzles, all related to the book. And so I wanted to create this experience. And so that's what we've created. And it works really well. The technology, although I use some technology, I don't want it to be, how kids are now connected.
They're pretty tech savvy, aren't they?
Yeah, and they're tech savvy, but they get lost in YouTube, but you can't ignore the fact that it exists. So you can't say, okay, this is what you're not going to, get on there. So we try to introduce technology in a way that enables the book through these QR codes, and you can you go to a website, bethatspark.com. Everything that we have is Instagram, all that, Be That Spark, and you go there and there's all kinds of different things. And I have a great editor and creative guy. We create, there's, again, 50 activities. We have our own Bob Ross, Bob Ross, the painting guy from years ago.
Yes.
And the quiet guy. So we got this kid, and there's a video, how to draw, Ned Noof, the dog.
Yes.
And it's for that age group, like grade 1, grade 2. And so it's an experience. And then the lessons are really important. And in the book, we draw lessons like believe in yourself. Friends, there's 6 of them, and they're intertwined in the book. And it's an opportunity for parents to sit with kids, and then they can sort of put their own spin on it, because I'm not an expert, but we have a platform, we have this content, and whether it's a parent with the kid,
Yep.
and they're talking about their interpretation of the lessons, or it's a teacher in a classroom, which is a new thing that we just launched, and I'm really excited about that, with the students, and because I'm not trying to, you know, imprint my view. It's really provide a platform, and then you take it from there and you create this incredible experience between you and your pupil, or you and your kid.
Yes.
And so it's a new category.
Yeah.
I never ever called it that because
Well, I can see why you would say that, because it certainly seems to be. Now, I wonder, I know that there'd be a lot of people on the call today that'd be wondering, well, I'm a parent and I'd like to teach them more things over time. Do you think there's room for further volumes or
oh
versions
yeah,
of this?
oh absolutely. So our plan in the book. So you think about the little spark is the starting point. The bigger theme is be that spark. So we're already working on book two, which will
Right.
be done by the middle of next year. And it's not really book two, so like book one.
A bigger
So
spark?
it's the book, it's the illustration, like 75 illustrations. And, we have this amazing illustrator, and each iteration takes like 10, each illustration, there's 10 iterations. And so we spend a lot of time on that. And then you have the music, so original music. In fact, I was
Scores.
at the studio this morning with this incredible guy I just happened to meet along my journey, who's now I've been working with for 2 years. And so we're up to song number 7 in book two. And then we have the audio book, which I love that part of it. And we got this great book. So it takes a year. And I've started, a long time ago in book two, and then we're working on the concept for book three. So there's 3 books, and music and audio and all these activities involved, as we build out the platform. And we try to make it available to everyone. So people, want to listen to the music, and the music is all published, at least the
Yes.
first album. And
Hmm.
you can go on Amazon, or, and just A Little Spark by Chris Parsons, and you can hear all the music that comes with it. And when we provide the book, you buy the book, you get the audio book, you get the full album, you get the embedded music, and there's fun things that we do at the back are interactive.
Yes.
So it's and it's so I'm working on doing PR and on the first book at the same time, and creating with my incredible team the content for book two, because we want to sequence book two next year and book three the year after, and we've got other things, but one of the and I just want to jump in if I
Yeah, sure.
can.
Yeah, yeah.
Uh, so after I got rejected by these publishers and literary agents, who I think need to work on getting current with what's happening in
Yeah, the
technology,
changes. Yep.
the changes.
Innovation, maybe.
Yeah, and because if you're a big name author, then the publishers love you and you do your thing. But when you're an innovator and you're unknown, but so what I did, before we finished the final version of the book, I printed 100 copies, this on-demand printing of A Little Spark version one, very different from what it looks right now. And I handed them out to parents, people I knew in my circle. What do you think? What do you think of the music? Is the music right? And so we got a lot of feedback from parents, because I'm a big believer all my career, and anybody who knows me, I'm sort of customer back,
Yep.
customer back.
Yep.
You just can't build it, they will come. And I'm not an expert in children's literature or parents, although I was a parent once. Yeah, I'm still a parent, but I wasn't a
I get it.
kids parent a long time ago.
Things change.
But one of those people who read the book was this teacher, Mrs. Ramirez, this grade one teacher. And she reached out to me and said, I love this. Can we use it in the classroom? I said, wow. So we could create Be That Spark program for the classroom. And so I jumped in and we created a pilot program. It was a grade one class with like 22 students. And we created posters, and, we created basic lesson plans, and she read the book. There's all kinds of videos, and they absolutely loved it. The sensory, interactivity. And so when that was ended, I said, wow, this is something, because I want to get it out there. I want to, grade ones, everywhere
Yeah,
to
yeah,
experience
yep.
this. And then we finalized the book, got the book out there. And then I had these teachers call me and they say, or email me and say, hey, this is great. We want to use it. And then I put together a little advisory group. And so for the last year, we've been working on Be That Spark School program, which has a full lesson plan. It has, links into the music and all these activities. And we launched it on October 1st in 4 schools here in Dallas. These are grade 1 schools and 1 in Virginia. And so the pilot is launched. In fact, I'm going to one of the schools tomorrow. I can't wait. They have 3 grade 1 classes who are doing it. They love it. The parents love it. And part of it is, and it follows the book, right? The book, there's 10 chapters, so there's 12
Yes.
lessons, but it
Yep.
follows the book and is interactive. And part of what we did, which was input from someone else, because I just collect all these great minds around me. He said,
Hmm.
wouldn't it be great they finish the program and you give them the book and they take the book home and they continue this idea of be that spark at home and with their family, because there's a lot of content. So part of the program is there's 12 lessons, or about an hour each. It fits into existing curriculum, right? It teaches reading, it teaches music, it teaches art. So it links in.
Yes.
And at the end of it, they get the book. And in the case of Dallas, I'll go in and sign the book and they take it home. And then there's suggested activities at home. There's a workbook. And so that has become a major part in Zuroam Media. Now I don't like using the word product, but that
Yes.
is a product. That's a
Of course.
whole
Yep.
area, education. And so we're working through the next set of pilots and we're working with some really interesting segments of, children's literature. There's one entity that we're starting to work with kids with special needs. And and I got a lot of feedback on that as well, because it's multi-sensory, because you have audio, you have video, you have music. It can work, in with children with special needs, because they learn differently.
Of course.
And so we're trying to adopt a version of the school program for that group. And then there's another group, the homeschooling folks, which is huge.
Right now,
And
yeah.
they're always looking for content and whatnot. So that's become, and it's so much fun working with kids and the teachers, and they all get involved. And then as they use the program, they say, okay, we want to create a worksheet, blah, blah, blah. Then they create it, or I help them, or creative guy helps them. And then that becomes something for all the teachers. So this community resource, um, again, along the idea of
You are never short of work to be done and ideas to introduce and integrate into
no.
this wonderful platform. Be the spark, and the volume 2 is going to be probably just as good, if not better, than the first. Now, I wonder, you've talked about Zuroam Media. I'd love to understand where the name Zuroam came from.
So, yeah, and when you read the book, you'll understand. So basically, in the plot at a high level, there's a world. This is a fantasy world with animals, and this group, this community lives around the lake, and it's all ice. And the reason that they can survive in this harsh condition is they have a fire-breathing dragon, of course.
Of course,
And
everyone
with his
does.
flame, he's sort of the furnace, and they thrive and whatnot. But they have a different society. Their society is hierarchical. So the big creatures run, and the little mouse like Spark is at the lowest of the low. But that's their society. They have an issue, and the flame goes out, and Spark steps up, and they need to find a way in which they can keep this flame going. So they find, long story, and there's all these scary creatures and everything,
Yes,
and
yes.
they find another world called Turon. The first place is called Zuron, and the other place is called Turon. And so basically, and they're different. They're much more of a democracy, and everyone is equal, and it's a great place, but they're having issues as well. So in the end of the book, these two worlds, Zuron and Turon, come together, and they pick the best of both worlds. And when you combine those two names, Zuron and Turon, you end up with Zuroam.
Yes,
And
fantastic.
and and Zuroam, and it's not only for the book, but Zuroam is this happy place. It's a place where everyone matters, where dreams come true. And there's an analogy to the human, right? And when that place when you worked in something and it was just the greatest, everybody worked together. And that's what Zuroam is. Zuroam is that place where we all connect, whether it's at work, whether it's with your church, but you feel like you're connected. And that's the word. And so now we're using that word in a lot. I've heard
I love it. Yeah.
people in the business community that I worked before I left, they knew the word Zuroam, these guys, and they started using it as an adjective. It feels like Zuroam, talking about a partnership or talking about something. And so it's
It's very special.
it is, yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
look,
And you
I've
can Google it. And people,
I've
I tell people, Google it, Google
Google
Zuroam, and then
it.
you'll
I've
see all the stuff related to Be That Spark and all that stuff.
All
So
I can say right now is that I'm thinking to myself, I feel like a little kid thinking to myself, what happens next? What happens next? You're obviously an incredible storyteller. There's lots to take away from this, but importantly, you're also an educator, an innovative educator who is making a difference to children in a very different way, which is going to be received incredibly well. Clearly, it has been because of the Mum's
yeah.
Choice Award, and it is a complete credit to you and well done. Now, I'd love to ask you when people want to find this work, where are they going to find it and you?
Yeah, bethatspark.com is the website. So just,
Mm-hmm.
as long as you remember to, be that spark. And the book, A Little Spark by Chris Parsons is on Amazon and, it's in stores, certain stores, in the US and Canada. And, we're really pushing it out. And then the music, which is is amazing story of the music, but the music is available, on all platforms, or if you buy the book, it comes with the book. So we're easy to find. And that's an area, I don't know if you want to talk about the music or
Yeah, look, I
for
was going to
people.
ask you about the your
Yeah,
team. Let's talk a little bit about
yeah.
the people who are involved with it.
So I come to this point, I got the story and I have no idea what I need. I know I need an illustrator. So I Google it, and of course, and I find this incredible illustrator, two actually illustrators in Toronto. So they Mike Motz and Sergio Drummond become, connected to my story. So they are the illustrators. And then I'm thinking, I need someone who can help me design a book, someone really creative who's done this work. And I just, through the illustrator, I found this guy in Oregon, Will Robertson, genius, one of the most innovative people I've ever met. And I've been working with him. So he helps create the content and he's an editor. So he works
Yep.
with me on the writing. And so that was that one. And then as I was building this, so I can't play an instrument and I can't sing. And I can tell you, everyone goes out of their way to tell me I can't sing. And that hasn't changed. I've tried.
Give it
But
up, Chris.
I know I do. But I have all this music in my head. I have these melodies and all this
Yes,
stuff.
yes.
And so I started recording on my iPhone these melodies with me singing, and because music was core to this experience. So I had the first three songs, that had the melody, and I knew the character that would sing it and where in the book it would happen. And then I Googled it, of course, and a music studio near me, and it came up, this Cake Mix studio, 1 mile away, unbelievable. And I walked in there one day and I came in, and of course I'm all passionate about this guy. Bruce Faulkner was there, small studio. He's brilliant. And, he thinks I'm nuts. Clearly, I'm a streetwalker,
Yeah, yeah.
comes in, I talk about it. And he said, come back in a week. And I came back in a week, and he and I have worked. We've published, I think we're up to 19 songs.
Oh, wow.
So and this is true, there's lots of, scenarios like this. But so I had this in me, and I had no way to get it out. And I met Bruce, and he was the spark that sort of, and he and I he's never worked with a musician who can't sing or play an instrument. So, so, and
You.
we sort of came together, and it just works incredibly well. And he's like, if you recall a cartoon, the most popular cartoon of all time for kids was Dragon Ball Z. It was
Yes,
this
yes.
well, Bruce did all the music for that.
Oh,
Like
wow.
he's got a
Yeah.
million,
I
all
thought
these
I'd
kids.
seen the name.
Oh yeah, no, and he does orchestra and PhD in music, and so he's got this studio here, and so he's connected into all the musicians in
Perfect.
and around the area.
Yeah.
So as we created the music, and I knew the types of songs, then we'd produce. I'd come up with the melody and the lyrics, and then we get together and we say, okay, this is the song. We're going to use drums. We're going to use, it's going to be this kind of genre, this kind of feel, and then Bruce would bring the musicians in. And we have right now in the collection in, Be That Spark, the music group, we have about 15 people, voices. We have this incredible guitar player. You Google Andy Timmons, will tell you he's in the top 10 guitar players in the world.
Wow.
Just happened to be in Texas who knew Bruce, or W.T. Greer, this incredible voice. So they came, and then they've become passionate about this movement. And so they join in, and we have our the narrator for the audiobook is based in LA, this guy, Brandon McKinnis, who just incredible. So he's in, he creates like the 20 voices that are in the audiobook. This guy, and they range from everything.
And it takes a bit of work. I've seen, I can't remember the name of the guy, but he's done a lot of work. It takes a very special type of individual to be able to mix and match different voices, but over a prolonged period of time.
No, it's incredible. So I tell you, I wanted an English accent. There's an owl called Oliver. And I want him to have that English accent and sort of that English accent character. You know what I mean, right?
Yes,
kind of all-knowing,
Yeah.
owl. And so we get in the studio, and I said, this is what we're doing. And I said, I need a British accent. And so Brandon says, which one?
Yeah.
And I said, okay. He
Let's
said, there's
start there.
6. He said, there's 6. And he goes through all 6. And they're all different. The Cockney, as you know, they're all very different, as in any country, And then we picked, I was just amazed, there's 6. And we finally, sort of a proper West London. And so that's Oliver in the book, but just an amazing talent. And now he's the narrator on book 2, and we're starting to work together. And he sang a song. I mean, one of the songs on the album is by Brandon McKinnis. So we've got this, really tight team. And then I have a marketing function, which I needed. So like PR and stuff like that. I have
which is standard stuff.
Yeah, standard stuff, which you need, because the negative thing when you're doing it on your own. So I created a publishing company. If you go with a publisher, they have all these connections. And, they're connected to all the media and, your Random House or whatever. And so you got to build that. So it's, it's been tough, and we've made great progress, and success carries forward with more success.
Compounds itself.
So the PR side is, really important. And then we're working on the animation version of this. So I have a partner in Los Angeles. We're trying to figure out how do we turn this more into an animated experience. Mm-hmm. And that's something that we're working on next year. We're going to, that's a whole other world. And
that's a whole other world. I have to say, Chris, I'm hopeful that the conversation that we've had and the audience that we have on the My Future Business Show is able to bring you some further exposure for this wonderful work. I know that it deserves it. It is certainly not a slouch of a production. Given what you have just said, there are some very high caliber individuals involved in this work, and I'm so glad that people like you in this world exist. And thank you so very much for joining me on the My Future Business Show today.
It was a pleasure, Rick. I really appreciate your help.
Thanks for joining us today. If you enjoyed the call, then make sure to subscribe, leave a comment, share us with your friends, and book your spot on the show at myfuturebusiness.com/interviews. And if you're looking for solutions that will help grow your business, then visit myfuturebusiness.com/shop.